The late afternoon sun hung low over the Appalachian foothills, casting long, jagged shadows across the winding road. A group of high school students, weary from a long bus ride, clutched their backpacks and stared out the fogged windows. The school trip was supposed to be fun, a week of hiking, canoeing, and bonding at Pine Hollow Camp, but already, unease hummed in the air. The bus, an aging blue and white school coach, groaned as it struggled up the last incline before the camp entrance. The forest on either side was thick and overgrown. Trees like silent sentinels leaning in over the road, their twisted limbs scratching at the sky. Mist clung to the ground, curling around the roots like white snakes. "Are we there yet?" shouted Tyler, a lanky teenager with dark hair that fell into his eyes. His voice cracked slightly, betraying nervous excitement. "Almost." The driver, Mr. Carlson, called over his shoulder, his tone tired but firm. "Keep your eyes on the road." The bus finally pulled into a clearing, revealing Pine Hollow Camp, a cluster of rustic cabins scattered around a still, glimmering lake. The water reflected the gray clouds above, its surface unnaturally smooth, almost like glass. The camp was silent, too silent, as the students shuffled off the bus. Their teacher, Ms. Harper, a sharp-eyed woman in her early 30s, organized them into cabin groups. Tyler was assigned to cabin 4, along with his friends Lucas and Maya. "This is going to be great," Lucas said, clapping Tyler on the shoulder. But even as he spoke, his gaze kept flicking toward the lake, which seemed darker than a lake should be. Shadows hugged its edges in ways that didn't belong. Night fell quickly in the mountains. The students ate dinner in the main lodge, the scent of burnt vegetables and stale coffee lingering in the air. Ms. Harper tried to maintain a cheerful tone, but the tension was palpable. When the meal ended, everyone returned to their cabins. Tyler, Lucas, and Maya unpacked in the dim light, the wooden walls creaking as if the building itself were sighing. Through the cabin window, the lake gleamed like a dark eye in the forest. "I dare you to sneak out tonight," Tyler whispered, his voice trembling with excitement. "Just for a few minutes. We'll go down to the lake, take some photos, and come back before anyone notices." Maya frowned. "I don't know. It's creepy out there. The forest looks alive." "Don't be a baby," Lucas said. "It'll be fine. Nothing's going to happen." But as the three friends slipped out into the forest, the shadows seemed to twist and shift around them. The path to the lake, which had seemed so short from the cabin, stretched endlessly, tangled with roots and thorny underbrush. The mist thickened, clinging to their clothes and hair like icy fingers. After nearly half an hour, the forest swallowed the path completely. Tyler checked his phone. No signal, not even a single bar. Panic pricked at the back of their minds. "We should turn back," Maya whispered. "Just a little farther," Tyler urged, ignoring the shiver running down his spine. "We'll be fine." That's when they heard it. A soft rustling, like footsteps, on dry leaves, but slower, heavier, and coming from somewhere above them. Lucas froze. "Did you hear that?" Maya nodded, gripping his arm. "We're not alone." The three of them pressed forward, hearts hammering. Then, they saw him. Derek, their friend from the cabin, crouched near a hollow in the ground, muttering something in a low, rasping voice. But his eyes were black. Completely black. No whites, no iris, just empty darkness staring back at them. Tyler stepped forward, hand shaking. "Derek, what are you doing?" Derek's head snapped up, and his mouth opened in a silent scream. Then he lunged. Lucas barely pushed Tyler out of the way, but Derek convulsed, moving unnaturally fast, his limbs jerking in impossible angles. The air around them seemed to vibrate with something dark, alive, and hungry. Maya screamed, and the forest echoed it back at them. The lake, silent and smooth moments ago, rippled as if something beneath the surface had awakened. Tyler, Lucas, and Maya ran blindly through the mist, branches tearing at their clothes, roots tripping them. They had no idea where they were going, only that whatever had taken Derek was hunting them too. And then they stumbled upon a ruin, half hidden by the trees. The roof had collapsed, walls blackened with age, windows gaping like screaming mouths, and hanging above the entrance, suspended in midair, was Derek, still alive, but twisted in ways that made their stomachs turn. An old withered woman appeared from the shadows inside the ruin. Her hair hung in damp, matted strands, her eyes as black as Derek's. Her lips moved, but no sound came out, only a feeling of cold, suffocating rage pressing into their minds. Tyler screamed. Lucas tried to pull him back. Maya clutched at both. But the forest seemed alive, pulling them forward, forcing them to face the horror. And then, the water of the lake began to move, as if something below had taken notice. The night was just beginning. The mist clung to Tyler's skin as he struggled to catch his breath, the icy fingers of fear curling around his chest. The forest seemed alive, every shadow a threat, every rustle of leaves a predator stalking them. Derek hung in the air above the ruined cabin, his body contorted unnaturally, twitching with movements that no human could make. Maya grabbed Tyler's arm. "We have to get out of here," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Now?" Lucas glanced back at Derek, whose head twisted toward them. His black eyes glowed faintly in the moonlight. He's not Derek anymore," Lucas stammered. "Something took him." Before Tyler could respond, a chilling wind swept through the forest, carrying whispers that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The voices weren't words, they were feelings, dread, despair, and rage. They pressed on Tyler's mind, clawing at his sanity. "We need a plan," Tyler said. "We can't just run blindly." But the forest seemed to have other ideas. As they stepped toward what they hoped was the trail back to camp, the ground shifted beneath their feet, roots twisted like serpents, blocking their path. The air thickened with mist, and the once familiar trees now looked grotesque, twisted into shapes that resembled screaming faces. Suddenly, the lake came into view again. The water, previously smooth, now churned violently, as if stirred by some unseen force. Black shapes darted beneath the surface, sending ripples across the mirrored moonlight. The friends froze, realizing that whatever had taken Derek might be coming for them next. Maya whispered, "We should go around it." Tyler shook his head. "No. The longer we run, the further we get from the camp. We need to confront this, or we'll never leave." They edged closer to the lake's shore, the mist curling around their ankles like grasping hands. That's when they saw it: footprints. Not human footprints, but deep, elongated impressions in the mud, leading into the water. Something or someone had walked into the lake and not returned. Lucas swallowed hard. "We shouldn't follow that, right?" Tyler's stomach churned. "We don't have a choice. If we don't figure out what's happening here, Derek, we might be next." With cautious steps, they followed the footprints along the lake's edge. The night was silent, except for their breathing and the occasional plop of water. Then, a sound shattered the stillness. A child's laughter, soft and eerie, echoing from deep within the forest. Maya froze. That's not possible. There aren't any kids here." The laughter grew louder, overlapping with another sound, the scraping of nails against tree bark. A shadow moved in the mist, fast, almost invisible, and then a small figure appeared at the water's edge. It was a girl, maybe 9 or 10, wearing a tattered white dress. Her hair was long and wet, hanging in dark strands over her pale face. Tyler stepped forward. "Hello? Are you okay?" The girl tilted her head, unnaturally, smiling, but there was something deeply wrong about her expression. She raised a hand, pointing toward the lake. "They're coming," she whispered, her voice hollow and echoing, like it belonged to more than one person. Lucas grabbed Tyler's arm. "We need to go. Now." But before they could move, the water began to bubble and churn violently. Something massive moved beneath the surface. Dark shapes emerged, thin, elongated, with clawed hands reaching toward the shore. Shadows twisted in ways that made the friends' stomachs turn. Maya screamed. "Run!" They bolted, but the forest itself seemed to resist them. The ground shifted, roots tangled their feet, branches lashed at their faces. The mist thickened, until visibility dropped to mere feet. Every sound was amplified, the whispering wind, the splashing water, the snapping branches, all converging into a cacophony of fear. Then, without warning, they stumbled into another ruin, this one older, half buried in moss and vines. The door hung on one hinge, creaking in the wind. Tyler led the way inside, hoping for shelter. But the interior was far worse than the outside suggested. The air smelled of decay, rot, and something metallic. Shadowy figures seemed to flicker in the corners of the room, just beyond the reach of their flashlights. And then they heard it. Derek's voice, low, distorted, calling their names from somewhere deep within the building. "Derek," Tyler whispered. The voice laughed, a sound that was both Derek and not Derek at the same time. "You shouldn't have come," it hissed. The floorboards groaned under their weight. As they advanced, the shadows around them coalesced into forms twisted and elongated, their eyes black pits of nothing. They didn't move like humans. They glided, hovering inches above the ground, silent but menacing. Maya screamed, but Tyler grabbed her, pulling her behind a collapsed wall. Lucas shined his flashlight into the darkness, revealing a wall covered in symbols, runes and scratches, etched deep into the wood and stone. The symbols seemed to writhe and shift when no one was looking directly at them. Tyler swallowed hard. This isn't just a forest. Something ancient lives here. Then, the air grew colder. Their breaths came out in clouds. The whispers returned, louder now, more insistent. The tattered girl from the lake appeared again, standing in the doorway, her eyes black as coal. "They took him," she whispered, pointing at the shadows behind her. "They take everyone." The friends realized, in that moment, that the forest was alive, not just with trees and animals, but with a hunger older than anything they had ever known. Derek was gone. Whatever had claimed him was no longer satisfied with just one victim, and the worst part, they could feel it watching them, from the shadows, from the lake, from the very walls around them. The night was far from over. Tyler, Lucas, and Maya pressed themselves against the cold, damp wall of the ruined building, their hearts pounding like war drums. The tattered girl from the lake had vanished as suddenly as she had appeared, leaving only the echo of her whispering in their minds. "They're everywhere," Maya said, her voice shaking. "We're trapped." Lucas shined his flashlight across the room, revealing the full horror of the interior. The walls were etched with symbols that seemed to crawl and twist when viewed from the corner of the eye. Dark stains smeared the dried blood, and something that smelled faintly of decay. Though it was impossible to tell how long it had been there, Tyler swallowed hard. "We have to find Derek, or at least figure out what's happening." But the shadows weren't idle. From the darkness, figures began to coalesce, all thin, their movements jerky and unnatural. Eyes entirely black stared at them from the corners of the room. They made no sound, yet their presence pressed heavily on the friends' minds, a suffocating weight of dread. "Move," Tyler hissed, grabbing Lucas's arm. "We can't stay here." They crept through the ruins, their flashlights barely piercing the blackness. Every step echoed, and the shadows seemed to follow, gliding silently just beyond the beam of light. Suddenly, a whisper, soft and urgent, came from a hole in the far wall. "He's here. He's watching." Maya froze. Who's watching?" Tyler didn't answer. He could feel the ties burning into his back, an invisible hand brushing against his neck. The whispers grew louder, overlapping in dozens of voices, incomprehensible, yet deeply terrifying. Then they saw him, Derek, standing at the far end of the hall. His body was twisted, limbs bending in impossible angles, skin pale as chalk. His black eyes glowed faintly, and his lips moved, forming words that made no sense. "Derek," Lucas shouted. The figure jerked toward them with a speed that was impossible. Lunging forward, Tyler shoved Maya out of the way just in time. Derek's hand passed through the wall, leaving behind a streak of shadow that reached for them like living smoke. "We need to get outside," Tyler yelled. Now, the three of them ran, bursting through a crumbling doorway into the forest. The mist had thickened into a nearly impenetrable fog. The trees seemed closer, their twisted limbs forming jagged shapes that blocked the path. Somewhere behind them, Derek, or whatever he had become, screamed, a sound that shredded sanity itself. The friends stumbled toward the lake, hoping the open space would give them a chance to regroup. But the water was no longer calm. Ripples moved outward in perfect concentric circles, as though something massive was moving just beneath the surface, and then it emerged. A hulking figure rose from the lake, skin like dark water, limbs long and thin, dripping with black liquid. Its eyes were empty pits, and its mouth opened impossibly wide, stretching from ear to ear. The thing screeched, a sound that vibrated through the forest and into their bones. Maya screamed, stumbling backward, into a tree. Tyler grabbed her arm. "Run, just run." They fled through the forest, branches clawing at their faces and snagging their clothes. The ruins of the old cabin disappeared behind them into the fog, but the whispers persisted, taunting, inhuman, omnipresent. Suddenly, Lucas tripped over something. Tyler grabbed him just in time. "What?" he started, but froze. They were standing at the edge of another ruin, smaller than the first, hidden beneath overgrown vines. A faint light glimmered from inside, a warm glow in the otherwise oppressive darkness. "Do we go in?" Maya whispered. Tyler shook his head, but the whispers seemed to push them forward. "We don't have a choice," he said, voice trembling. "Something inside might help us, or at least tell us what's happening." As they entered the building, the air changed. It was warmer, but thick, heavy, almost suffocating. The walls were lined with shelves, filled with dusty tomes and broken artifacts. In the center of the room, a circle had been carved into the floor, filled with strange symbols and bones, and standing in the center, her back to them, was the old woman from the lake, her hair white and tangled, her eyes pitch black. She was chanting softly, hands raised. The shadows in the corners of the room writhed, drawn to her like moths to flame. Tyler swallowed hard. Who are you?" The woman's head snapped toward them. Her gaze was cold and empty, yet full of centuries of hatred. "You should not have come here," she said. Her voice was a whisper and a scream at the same time. "But now, you are mine." Before they could react, the shadows surged forward, enveloping them. The room twisted, walls stretching and bending. The air filled with the sound of screams, some human, some not. Tyler felt something cold wrap around his legs, pulling him toward the circle on the floor. Maya grabbed his arm. "Don't let go," she shouted. But the shadows were relentless. Lucas screamed, and in a flash of light, like lightning, the old woman raised her hands, and everything went black. When Tyler opened his eyes, he was alone. The forest was silent, the mist heavy. The ruins were gone. The lake lay calm, deceptively peaceful, but a faint whisper, almost too soft to hear, reached his ears. "We are still watching and waiting." Tyler realized with a shiver that the night was far from over, and that escaping the forest alive might be impossible. Tyler's chest heaved as he stumbled through the thick mist, the weight of the night pressing down on him like a physical force. Every step seemed louder than it should have been. The forest was silent now, but the silence was not peaceful. It was waiting, watching. He glanced around, hoping to see Lucas or Maya, but the fog swallowed everything. Even the ruins had vanished, as if they had never existed. The lake lay ahead, smooth and still, reflecting the pale moonlight like a sheet of black glass. A shiver ran down Tyler's spine. He knew the lake wasn't safe, not after what they had seen. The shadows, Derek, the old woman, all of it. And yet, he felt compelled to approach the water, as though some invisible force tugged him forward. Suddenly, the whispers returned, louder and closer. They didn't come from any directions. Tyler felt them inside his mind, clawing at his thoughts. You belong to us. He is ours. Leave and die. Tyler staggered, covering his ears, but the whispers didn't stop. They grew into a chorus of voices, each one older, crueler, hungrier than the last. He fell to his knees at the edge of the lake, his flashlight trembling in his grip, and then he saw it. A hand emerged from the water, pale, long-fingered, claw-like. It dragged itself across the surface, leaving black ripples that distorted the moonlight. Then another hand, and another. Slowly, the water began to churn violently. Tyler scrambled backward, but the forest floor seemed to twist beneath his feet. Roots snaked up, wrapping around his ankles. He fell, his flashlight clattering across the rocks. The hand on the water's edge stretched upward too long, too thin, and from the depths, a face appeared. It was Derek's, but distorted, half human, half shadow, eyes completely black, mouth stretched in a scream that carried no sound. Tyler screamed and scrambled to his feet. He ran blindly through the mist, branches scratching his face, roots snagging his clothes. Every step felt like it took hours. The whispers followed him, now joined by the sound of wet, dragging footsteps, multiple figures moving in the fog, silent but unrelenting. Eventually, he stumbled into a narrow clearing, the moonlight filtering through the twisted canopy. And there, standing in the center, was Lucas. But his eyes were black, and his movements jerky, unnatural. He raised a hand toward Tyler, his face twisted into a grim mockery of his former expression. Tyler froze. Lucas. No. Lucas stepped forward, unnaturally fast, and a low, guttural sound escaped his throat. It was not Lucas. It was something else, something older and hungrier. Tyler turned to run, but the shadows surged around him, forcing him back toward the lake. From the mist, the old woman appeared, her hair white and tangled, her eyes black voids. She raised her hands, and the shadows responded, writhing and surging like a living sea. You cannot leave, she said, her voice echoing in Tyler's mind. The forest claims all who enter. Tyler's stomach churned. What do you want from us? The old woman's lips curled into a smile. Not from you, for you. You are the bait. The forest hungers, and it has awakened. Soon, it will take everything. The shadows coalesced into human shapes, faces twisted in agony, eyes hollow, mouths open in silent screams. Tyler realized with a chill that these were not just shadows, they were the remnants of every soul the forest had claimed over centuries. Maya's voice called out, faint but desperate, from somewhere in the fog. Tyler's heart leaped. Maya, where are you? A figure appeared, a fleeting silhouette, just beyond the mist. Tyler ran toward it, branches tearing at his clothes and skin. The forest seemed to resist him, roots wrapping around his legs, forcing him to crawl forward. When he finally reached the figure, he realized with horror that it was not Maya. It was a grotesque imitation. Her face stretched unnaturally, her eyes black voids. She reached for him, smiling, whispering in his mind, "Join us, forever." Tyler screamed, pulling away, but the forest closed in from all sides. The whispers became a deafening roar. The lake churned, and from its depths, Derek and Lucas emerged, fully transformed into shadow monsters, their movements jerky, inhuman. Tyler ran, desperately searching for the real Maya, the real Lucas, anyone who might still be human. But the forest had changed. Paths disappeared, trees shifted, and the fog thickened into an almost solid wall. And then, in the distance, he saw a faint light, a cabin, half hidden among the trees. It flickered, like a beacon of hope. Tyler sprinted toward it, praying it was real. But the moment he reached the threshold, he realized the horror was far from over. Inside the cabin, on the floor, were symbols drawn in blood. And standing over them, the old woman smiled, her eyes gleaming with centuries of malice. "Welcome," she said softly. "The night has only begun." Tyler understood then that survival wouldn't be about escaping the forest, it would be about facing the darkness itself. Tyler stumbled into the cabin, the door slamming shut behind him, as if the forest itself had pushed it. The air inside was thick with the scent of decay and old wood, and the flickering lantern cast shadows that danced on the walls like living creatures. The symbols on the floor pulsed faintly, glowing red in the dim light. Tyler's stomach churned as he realized they were arranged in a circle, almost like a trap or a summoning. The old woman stood in the center, her eyes black voids, her tangled hair hanging like dark curtains. She raised a bony finger toward Tyler. "You have entered my forest," she whispered, "and now you will see its truth." Suddenly, the cabin walls seemed to dissolve. Tyler's vision swam, and he felt himself falling, though his feet never left the floor. When his senses cleared, he was standing in a forest, but this forest was different. The trees were taller, twisted into grotesque shapes, their bark covered in strange markings. Shadows moved independently of the trees, shifting and twisting, forming shapes that resembled screaming faces. The lake lay before him, black and vast, rippling as though alive. Tyler's mind raced. Where am I?" A voice whispered from everywhere and nowhere. "You are in the heart of Pine Hollow. You see what others cannot, and yet it sees you." From the lake, a figure emerged, Derek. But this time, he was more terrifying than ever. His body was elongated, limbs bending at impossible angles, skin dark and glistening like water. He lifted a clawed hand and pointed at Tyler. Tyler tried to run, but the ground shifted beneath him. Roots erupted from the earth, wrapping around his ankles, dragging him toward the lake. Panic gripped him. He could hear the faint, distorted laughter of Lucas somewhere in the fog, mixed with whispers of other voices, dozens, hundreds, trapped souls crying for release. And then the old woman appeared beside him. Her presence was overwhelming, radiating a malevolent energy that pressed into his chest. "This forest feeds on fear," she said. "It collects the lost, the curious, the foolish, and now it feeds through you." Tyler struggled, breaking free from the roots, and ran toward a faint light in the distance. As he approached, he saw a series of old cabins, abandoned and rotting. One of them had smoke curling from its chimney, a sign of life, or something, pretending to be alive. Inside, he found a journal, brittle and yellowed with age. The pages were filled with notes, drawings of symbols, and accounts of people who had vanished in Pine Hollow over centuries. One entry caught his eye. The old woman was once a healer, a protector of these woods. But the villagers feared her. They betrayed her, killed her, and threw her body into the lake. Her spirit rose, not to rest, but to reclaim the forest and all who dare enter it. The curse is eternal. None can leave who enter the heart of Pine Hollow at night. Tyler's hands shook. So, it's her. All of this, it's her doing. Suddenly, the cabin door creaked open. Tyler turned slowly, and there stood Derek and Lucasaur, what had once been them. Their faces were black voids, mouths open in silent screams. They advanced, moving unnaturally fast. Tyler grabbed a broken chair, holding it like a weapon, but deep down, he knew it wouldn't be enough. He backed toward the window, trying to escape. Outside, the forest pulsed, alive and hungry. The lake churned, and the whispers grew into screams, filling his mind. Then, from the corner of the cabin, a figure appeared, a girl in a tattered white dress, the same girl from the lake, but this time, she didn't point. She smiled, and the shadows behind her surged forward, enveloping Derek and Lucas. Tyler watched, frozen, as the creatures were pulled screaming into the mist. The girl's voice echoed in his mind, "Survive, if you can. But no, this the forest never forgets." Tyler collapsed to the floor, gasping, trying to calm his racing heart. The old woman appeared behind him, looming. "You have seen too much to leave," she said softly, "but you may yet survive, if you follow the forest's rules." Tyler looked up, terror etched into his face. "Rules? What rules?" The woman's lips curled into a faint smile. "Do not stray, do not trust the shadows, and never, ever look into the lake at night." The cabin faded, and Tyler found himself back at the edge of the real lake, the mist thick around him. The night was quiet, too quiet, but he knew better. Somewhere in the fog, the forest watched. Somewhere, Derek and Lucas were no longer themselves, and somewhere, the old woman waited, patient and eternal. Tyler took a deep breath, knowing that surviving the night would require more than courage. It would require cunning and a willingness to face horrors no human should ever see. The night was far from over. Tyler crouched at the edge of the lake, shivering, his heart hammering in his chest. The mist swirled around him like living smoke, and the forest seemed to hum with unseen life. He could feel the weight of the old woman's words pressing on him. "Do not stray. Do not trust the shadows. And never, ever look into the lake at night." He hadn't even realized he was trembling until a soft voice whispered from behind him, "Do you want to live?" Tyler spun around. The girl from the lake stood there, her white dress torn and damp, hair clinging to her pale face. Her black eyes, though terrifying, seemed almost human now. "Yes," Tyler whispered, voice shaking. I don't know what to do." The girl smiled faintly. "Then listen carefully. The forest obeys rules. Break them, and it will consume you. Follow them, and you may survive." She stepped closer. "First, do not trust what you see. The shadows will try to mimic those you love. Derek and Lucas are gone. They are no longer your friends. Do not follow them, ever." Tyler swallowed hard. "What about you?" She tilted her head. "I am a guide. For now, I can help, but I cannot fight what lurks beneath the lake or the ruins. You must move carefully." Tyler nodded, trying to steady his shaking hands. "What's the second rule?" "Never touch the symbols," she whispered. "Not the ones in the ruins, not the ones carved in trees, not the ones in the water. They are traps, anchors for the forest's hunger. Step on them, touch them, even glance too long, and you are lost forever." He shuddered. "And the third, do not look into the lake at night," she repeated. "Not even for a second. The water reflects more than your image. It reflects your fear, and then it pulls you under." Tyler felt the chill of her words sink into his bones. He remembered Derek's body, contorted and unnatural, and the shapes that had dragged Lucas away. The thought made bile rise in his throat. The girl's voice grew urgent. "We must move. The forest is restless tonight. Shadows hunt, and the old woman, she knows you are still alive. Every second you linger, the risk grows." Tyler followed her through the mist, keeping low and silent. Every branch snapped underfoot. Every rustle in the underbrush sent adrenaline surging through his veins. Somewhere behind them, he could hear the lake churning, faint splashes echoing like distant screams. They reached another ruin, smaller than the first, partially collapsed. The girl paused. "We can take shelter here for a few minutes, but do not touch anything. Do not speak unless necessary. Inside, Tyler examined the broken walls. More symbols, etched into the wood, seemed to pulse faintly in the dim moonlight. He looked at the girl. Why? Why does she do this? Why the forest? Why us? The girl's eyes flickered. Centuries ago, the villagers feared her. They took what they wanted from the forest and betrayed her. She rose, not to harm the innocent, but to reclaim what was stolen. Now, anyone who enters after dark becomes part of her collection. Tyler swallowed. So we're bait. Yes, she said bluntly, and the forest hungers. You must survive until dawn, or it will consume you completely. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from outside. Tyler's blood ran cold. The shadows were moving. The mist shifted unnaturally, forming shapes that resembled twisted animals, eyes glinting in the dim light. We have to move, the girl said urgently. Now. They slipped out of the ruin, keeping low. The forest seemed alive, watching, reacting to their movements. Every step Tyler took felt like walking on a thin wire over a pit of fire. From the corner of his eye, he saw a shadow figure slither along the ground, a grotesque mimic of Maya, her eyes black, smiling as if inviting him closer. Tyler forced himself to look away, focusing on the girl's hand, guiding him forward. Hours seemed to pass. The mist thickened, the shadows grew bolder, and the lake behind them churned with unseen life. Tyler's legs burned, his lungs ached, but the forest seemed to stretch endlessly, paths looping back as if mocking him. Finally, they reached a narrow clearing. The moonlight glinted off something metallic, an old stone marker, half buried in moss, carved with strange runes. This is a warning, the girl said softly. Do not pass beyond it tonight. The old woman's power is strongest near the lake. She can reach through the trees, through the ground, through your mind. Wait here, rest, if you can. But do not sleep. Tyler nodded numbly, his body trembling. He realized then that survival in Pine Hollow wasn't just about running, it was about understanding the forest, respecting its rules, and facing horrors beyond comprehension. And somewhere, in the fog behind them, Derek and Lucas waited, transformed, twisted, patient. The forest would not let him go easily. The night had only just begun. Tyler crouched in the clearing, the stone marker looming like a silent sentinel. The mist swirled around him, thick and heavy, carrying whispers that seemed to penetrate his mind. He kept his eyes on the shadows shifting in the distance, careful not to look at the lake. The girl from the lake sat beside him, knees drawn to her chest. We can't stay here forever, she whispered. The forest grows restless after midnight. Shadows roam freely now, and they hunger for fear. Tyler shivered. What happens if we break the rules? She glanced at him, black eyes solemn. You die, slowly, or worse. The forest doesn't always kill immediately. It corrupts, it twists, it takes parts of you until nothing human remains. The air grew colder. A low guttural growl echoed from the tree line. Tyler's heart leaped into his throat. Something was moving toward them, slow, deliberate, and hungry. From the mist, a massive figure emerged. Its form was barely human, limbs elongated, skin slick and dark as water, eyes glowing faintly red. Tyler's stomach churned. He knew this creature. It was Derek, fully transformed, but larger, more monstrous, more intelligent. The girl grabbed Tyler's hand. Run, she hissed. They darted into the forest, roots twisting around their feet, branches snapping at their faces. Behind them, Derek, or whatever he had become, moved with unnatural speed, silent, relentless. Every step he took seemed to warp the air, bending the mist and darkness around him. Tyler stumbled, catching himself on a twisted tree trunk. He turned to see Lucas emerge from the fog, his body jerking unnaturally, a twisted imitation of a human being. He raised a clawed hand toward Tyler, and a low inhuman hiss escaped his throat. The girl grabbed Tyler again. Do not engage them. They are no longer your friends. Do not trust anything that resembles them. They ran blindly through the forest, the mist thickening into a nearly solid wall. The trees seemed to move, shifting subtly to block their path, guiding them deeper into Pine Hollow's heart. Tyler realized with a chill that the forest was intelligent more than that. It was alive, aware of every step he took. Suddenly, a clearing opened ahead. In the center, a massive tree towered into the night sky, its trunk wide enough to be a small house. Its bark was blackened and twisted, and strange symbols glowed faintly along its surface. "This is it," the girl said softly. "The heart of the forest. The old woman's power is strongest here. She calls to the shadows from this tree." Tyler's stomach twisted. What? What do we do?" "We must survive until dawn," she said. "But the forest will test you first. You must face your fear, or it will claim you." The shadows began to swirl around the tree, forming shapes: human faces, animal forms, monstrous hybrids. They moved closer, whispering, laughing, taunting. Tyler's mind reeled with memories of Derek and Lucas, twisted into shadows. The whispers clawed at his sanity. Suddenly, one shadow lunged at him. It resembled Maya, smiling, eyes black, hands outstretched. Tyler screamed and ducked, narrowly avoiding its grasp. The forest seemed to pulse with every heartbeat, every breath, every step. The girl raised her hands. "Focus. Do not look directly into them. They cannot take what you do not fear fully." Tyler nodded, forcing himself to breathe deeply, to steady his racing heart. Slowly, deliberately, he began moving toward the massive tree, avoiding the shadows, keeping his eyes fixed on the glowing symbols. As they approached, the ground beneath them trembled. From the roots of the heart, smaller shadows emerged, crawling toward them like insects. Tyler and the girls sprinted, leaping over roots and fallen branches. One shadow nearly caught Tyler's ankle, but he kicked it away, the figure dissipating into mist. Finally, they reached the base of the massive tree. The girl pressed her palm against the bark, muttering words in a language Tyler didn't understand. The symbols on the trunk glowed brighter, forming a protective barrier that pushed back the shadows. Tyler collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. Is it over?" The girl shook her head. "Not yet. Dawn is hours away. But this barrier will give us a chance. If we survive, we might escape the forest alive." Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed from the mist. "Tyler." He froze. Derek's voice, distorted, coming from everywhere at once. Tyler's blood ran cold. He turned slowly, seeing the shadows part to reveal Derek and Lucas, both twisted beyond recognition. Eyes black voids. "They want you," the girl whispered, "and they will not stop until you are theirs." Tyler swallowed hard. For the first time, he understood the true horror of Pine Hollow. The forest didn't just kill. It hunted, it twisted, and it collected. And he was now part of its collection, whether he wanted to be or not. The night stretched on, long and merciless, and Tyler realized that surviving until dawn might not be enough. The forest hungered. Tyler sat against the massive trunk of the heart of the forest, his chest heaving as the protective barrier shimmered faintly around him. The mist swirled in chaotic patterns, and the whispers from the shadows were relentless, filling his mind with the screams of the lost and the taunts of Derek and Lucas. The girl from the lake crouched beside him. "We can hold them off for now," she whispered, "but the old woman knows you're here. She will come for you." Tyler swallowed hard. Why me? Why not anyone else? The girl's eyes flickered with a strange sorrow. "Because you entered the forest willingly. You are curious. You are human enough to feel fear. That makes you valuable. She feeds on it." Suddenly, the mist thickened at the edge of the clearing, and the air grew colder. Tyler could feel a presence pressing down, heavier than anything he had experienced so far. The shadows recoiled, almost like they were afraid. From the fog, the old woman emerged, gliding forward with an unnatural grace. Her eyes were black voids, her white hair floating around her as if in water. She raised a hand, and the shadows fell silent. "Tyler," she said softly, her voice like silk over steel. "You have survived longer than most. That shows potential. But surviving is not enough. To leave this forest, you must make a choice." Tyler's stomach tightened. Choice? What choice? The old woman's gaze pierced him. "You may leave, but you must offer something in return. Something living, something you love. Or stay, and I will claim you, as I have claimed all others." Tyler's mind raced. The thought of losing someone, Maya, or the girl guiding him, or even a part of himself, was unbearable. I can't. You have no choice," the old woman said, her voice rising like a storm. "The forest hungers, and it is patient. It can wait centuries, if it must, but I cannot allow you to leave without payment." The protective barrier flickered, as if the forest itself was testing him, gauging his fear. From the shadows he could hear whispers. "Give yourself, give them, give the fear." Tyler's eyes darted toward the girl from the lake. She looked back at him, expression unreadable, but her hand tightened around his. "Trust me," she seemed to say. Then the ground shook violently. Roots erupted from the earth, snaking toward them like living serpents. Derek and Lucas's distorted forms emerged from the mist, moving faster than humanly possible. Tyler felt the forest closing in, a tidal wave of shadow and hunger. The old woman raised her arms, chanting softly. The symbols on the heart of the forest glowed red and black, pulsing in rhythm with Tyler's heartbeat. "You must decide," she said, voice cold and commanding. "Offer your fear, or become part of it." Tyler's mind screamed. Every instinct told him to run, to fight, to do anything, but he knew the old woman was right. The forest would not let him leave. He could feel the tendrils of the shadows wrapping around his soul, probing his mind, testing his will. He clenched his fists, fighting the panic rising in his chest. I won't let you take anyone else," he shouted. "I'll face it. I'll face whatever this forest wants, but I won't let it hurt them." The old woman tilted her head, studying him. Brave, foolish, human. Perhaps there is hope yet. The girl from the lake stepped forward. "There is a way, Tyler, but it will require everything you have. Courage, cunning, and the willingness to confront the darkness within yourself. Are you ready?" Tyler nodded, swallowing hard. "I'm ready." The old woman's lips curled into a faint smile. "Very well. The trial begins. Face the forest, face the shadows, face yourself." From the fog, the shadows surged forward, merging with the forms of Derek and Lucas, creating a massive, writhing entity of darkness. Its voice, a chorus of distorted screams, echoed in Tyler's mind. "You belong to us, forever." Tyler gritted his teeth. He could feel fear clawing at his mind, his body trembling, but he forced himself to focus. The girl from the lake whispered, "Remember the rules. Focus. Don't look directly. Don't fear what you cannot control." With a deep breath, Tyler stepped forward, into the heart of the darkness. Into the trial that would decide whether he survived. Pine Hollow War became part of it forever. Tyler stepped forward into the darkness, the forest pressing around him like a living thing. The shadows surged, coiling and writhing, their whispers scratching at his mind. The air smelled of damp earth, decay, and something older, something hungry. The girl from the lake stayed close, her hand barely touching his arm. "Focus," she whispered. "Do not look at them directly. They feed on fear. Keep moving. Keep your mind sharp." From the mist, the forms of Derek and Lucas merged into a massive, shifting shadow loomed over him. Their faces flickered between human and monstrous, mouths opening in silent screams. Tyler forced himself to breathe, keeping his gaze fixed on the glowing runes embedded in the trees. Suddenly, the forest itself seemed to twist. The ground rose and fell like waves, roots stretching toward him, branches clawing at his clothes. Tyler stumbled, nearly falling, but the girl grabbed his hand and pulled him forward. "You must face your fear," she said. "The shadows will show you what haunts you most. You cannot run from it." The shadows coalesced, forming a scene. Before him, Tyler froze. The mist parted, revealing a vision of the lake, calm and still. But on its surface floated bodies, Derek, Lucas, and Maya, all twisted, their faces black voids, their mouths open in eternal screams. Tyler staggered back, heart pounding. The whispers became voices, accusing, taunting. "You could have saved them. You failed." "No," Tyler shouted, tears stinging his eyes. "I won't let you take them." The shadows surged, and the forest seemed to pulse with every heartbeat. Suddenly, the vision changed. Tyler was standing alone in a ruined classroom, the walls smeared with blood. The faces of his friends stared at him from the shadows, distorted and accusing. The whispers turned into screams. "You are weak. You cannot survive." Tyler felt panic clawing at his mind, threatening to overwhelm him. The girl's voice pierced through the chaos. "Focus. Fear is the weapon they use against you. Do not let it control you." He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, and imagined a light inside himself, something warm, human, alive. Slowly, he opened his eyes. The shadows recoiled, shrieking as if burned. The forest trembled. The shadow entity of Derek and Lucas shrieked, twisting and writhing as Tyler advanced, holding his inner light like a shield. He could hear the old woman's voice, low and menacing. "Very good. But this is only the beginning." The forest shifted again. Now Tyler was confronted with visions of the past, centuries of people who had entered Pine Hollow, all lost to fear and the old woman's wrath. Faces of villagers, wanderers, and children appeared, their mouths moving silently, eyes hollow. Each one seemed to reach for him, begging for release. Tyler's heart raced, but he forced himself to focus. "I am not afraid of you," he shouted. The shadows faltered. The mist parted, revealing a faint path leading deeper into the forest. The girl's eyes glimmered. "You've survived the first part of the trial, but there is more. You must confront the source, the heart of the forest itself, and face the old woman directly. Only then can you hope to escape." Tyler nodded, resolve hardening. His fear was still there, gnawing at him, but now he understood. He could not let it consume him. The shadows hissed and lunged, but Tyler stepped forward, his inner light guiding him, cutting through the darkness. The forest seemed endless, yet he knew the heart was near. From the mist, he could see it glowing faintly, symbols pulsing like a heartbeat. The whispers intensified, warning him, mocking him, but he pressed on, every step a test of courage and will. Finally, he reached the base of the massive tree, the heart itself. The old woman stood there, waiting, her black eyes glimmering with centuries of malice. "You have done well, Tyler," she said softly, "but the final test is mine. Face me and prove yourself worthy, or be claimed forever." Tyler's hands shook, but he stepped forward, gripping the girl's hand for courage. The forest pulsed around them, alive and hungry, the shadows coiling like snakes, waiting to strike. He was ready to face the darkness, ready to confront the old woman, ready to fight for survival. Tyler stood at the base of the massive tree, the heart of Pine Hollow. The forest pulsed around him, alive with whispers and shadows that slithered like serpents across the ground. The girl from the lake squeezed his hand. "This is it," she whispered. "Face her. Face the forest. Survive or be claimed." The old woman emerged from the shadows, her eyes black voids reflecting centuries of vengeance. "You have done well to survive this far, Tyler," she said softly, "but survival is not enough. To leave, you must offer your courage, and confront what you fear most. The shadows surged, and Tyler could see the forms of Derek and Lucas, fused into a massive, writhing creature, their screams a chorus of despair. The whispers of the lost echoed in his mind. Tyler gritted his teeth. "I'm not afraid of you," he shouted, forcing himself to focus. The old woman smiled faintly. "We shall see." Suddenly, the shadows lunged. Tyler dodged, ducked, and ran, weaving through roots and broken branches. His heart pounded as he felt the forest's hunger pressing in from all sides. The girl from the lake guided him. "You must reach the heart. Only there can you end this." Tyler sprinted toward the massive tree, the ground shaking beneath his feet. The shadow entity of Derek and Lucas reared, a monstrous fusion of his lost friends, and lunged. Tyler leapt, narrowly avoiding its grasp, and plunged his hand into the glowing runes of the heart. A blinding light erupted, cutting through the mist. The shadows screeched, recoiling, writhing as if burned. Tyler could feel the forest resisting, trying to pull him under, but he held on, channeling every ounce of courage and willpower he possessed. The old woman's form flickered, and her voice became a thunderous roar. "You dare challenge me?" Tyler didn't answer. He focused on the light inside him, imagining the faces of those lost Derek, Lucas, Maya, not as monsters, but as memories, as people. The shadows twisted, shrieking, and began to dissipate. The forest trembled violently. The heart pulsed one last time, and then silence. Tyler collapsed to his knees, gasping. The mist cleared, and the oppressive presence lifted. The old woman stood before him, her black eyes now faintly glimmering with something almost human. "You have faced your fear," she said softly. "Not all survive, but you did. The forest will release you. Remember, Tyler, fear is the true trap. Guard it, or you will return." The girl from the lake smiled faintly. "It's over. For now." Tyler stepped back, trembling, and the forest around him began to dissolve into the soft light of dawn. The lake was calm, reflecting the rising sun. Derek and Lucas's bodies floated lifeless on the shore, returned to their human forms, but gone, lost to the forest's curse forever. Tyler turned to the girl. Will it ever end?" She shook her head. "The forest never forgets, but as long as you survive, you carry hope." Tyler walked away, the whispers fading, the shadows gone. Behind him, Pine Hollow stood silent, its secrets hidden beneath centuries of darkness. The heart of the forest remained, ancient and patient, waiting for the next curious soul. As he reached the edge of the trees, the sun broke through the mist. Tyler took a deep breath, his body trembling but alive. The horror of Pine Hollow would haunt him forever, but he had survived, and for now, that was enough.